And natural disasters like this often become a test of governance, the institutions, and the emergency response systems. For more, we can cross to Geneva and speak to Paolo Cravero, spokesperson for the International Federation Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Hello to you, Paolo. Thank you for speaking to Paris Direct. What are you hearing from your team about what the situation is like in Venezuela?
Thank you for having me. The situation is clearly, as the image shown, very complex. The damage is massive, and it's unclear what will be at the end, and its assessment is still ongoing. Hospitals have collapsed, buildings have collapsed, houses, family has been disrupted. Our teams from the Venezuela Red Cross are working tirelessly in search and rescue and in trying to understand really how the situation is.
Yeah, and all of this would have been difficult in any country, but Venezuela was experiencing multiple crises when this happened. One common sentiment that we hear sometimes from Venezuelans is that they say their government doesn't have enough tools, enough rescue teams, enough trained people to meet this disaster. The earthquakes were unavoidable, but could any of this disaster have been mitigated?
Well, the Red Cross doesn't take sides. So, as you said correctly, an earthquake of this magnitude would have put in difficulty any single country on this planet. And our teams are working really tirelessly to extract people from the rubble and to provide emergency care. The international community is ramping up the response and is supporting the government. They do not need to act alone. They do not have to bear all the burden of this damage on their shoulders. The international community is there to support them and to provide humanitarian aid.
Yeah, the Red Cross announcing this Friday it's dispatching the first 17 tons of humanitarian cargo to Venezuela. How is that aid getting into the country?
Well, you're correct. We just hours ago, our 70 metric tons of cargo has left Panama towards Venezuela. Uh, in my understanding, this was going to be flown to a secondary airport and then brought into Caracas. But it's not all the International Federation of Red Cross or Red Crescent Society has done. In fact, just hours after the earthquake struck, it started its global response mechanism through the Disaster Response Emergency Fund and allocated 2 million Swiss francs to the response. And just today has launched an emergency appeal of 50 million Swiss francs.
Paolo, according to the United Nations, some 1,000 emergency responders and 25 search and rescue teams from across the globe are being deployed to Venezuela. Can you give us some perspective about if that will meet the demand or how much more is needed?
This is incredibly difficult to assess at the moment. There are no known for sure numbers of how many people have lost their lives, how many people are still in the rubbles, or how many people are missing, or how many are injured. So any support is good support. Any search and rescue team that can arrive in Caracas and across Venezuela to support the relief effort is welcome, because at the end of the day is the first few days that really will make a difference between life and death for the people under the rubble, but also for the people that need urgent emergency care once they're extracted from the debris.
Oh, any support is good support. I'm curious about how it should be organized. I mean, we're coming up on the 48-hour mark. So, in regards to logistical challenges, what mistakes should be avoided when organizing international humanitarian coordination?
Well, that is a really good question, but it's a question that I would suggest asking to the colleagues at OCHA who are organizing the larger response. For what I can tell you from the IFRC perspective, we have teams from the Venezuelan Red Cross that have responded immediately through search and rescue teams, getting people out of the debris. Their emergency health teams have supported in triaging and providing first aid and first trauma care. And we had needs assessment teams that have gone through the most affected areas, understanding what was needed and how is needed. They've individuated what the main ask, what the most urgent needs were, and we're trying through the cargo that you mentioned earlier to provide to those. And I'm talking about water filters, blankets, tarpaulins, but also psychosocial supports for those involved, for communities involved.
Paolo, nearly 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country since 2014. We still don't know the true scale of the fatalities here, as we've been saying repeatedly throughout this program. Is there a chance we could see more people fleeing Venezuela again now?
It's very early to say. That is something that we cannot know for sure. But on the flip side, what we see is international support. A number of Red Crosses across the regions where Venezuelans have emigrated are gearing up, and they're supporting in concert the restoration of family links that have been disrupted through the earthquake. And at the same time, we're seeing a lot of expat communities of Venezuelan fundraising to support this safe and rescue operations. So, yeah, there's always a good side to this.
All right, Paolo, thank you so much for your time. Paolo Cravero from the IFRC. Thank you.